On this episode of the podcast, I'm going to talk about orange lights, reunions, and thugs. Or is it fugs? I suppose it's TH, so it's like thugs. That's probably got a heap of plosives in it. I'm sorry. Also, the neighbour's got his leaf blower going. Can you hear that? I don't think you can, but, oh well, let's just record this thing. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Luke Who's Talking podcast with me, Luke, episode 37. Wow, episode 37. It's been going for 37 episodes. My goodness. I've got an idea for when I reach 50, but that's not going to be for a little while now, but yeah, could be a bit of fun. Anyway, now, let's get into the first story now. Are you a driver who runs an orange light? I do sometimes. But there was a situation the other day. I was driving, somebody ran a light and got completely burnt by it. And I was like, ha, sucked in, you fool. So I was on my way home from work. Anyway, I was at an intersection. I wanted to turn right onto the main highway. Anyway, a tractor went past, a big tractor. For all you tractor aficionados out there, it was a Case Magnum. I think it was a 330, and it was towing a disc chain, to be specific, but it was towing a huge, big, I'll just say plough. And it was driving in the middle of the road, taking up 2 lanes of traffic, because, it would take up a lane and a half, probably. So he was driving in the middle of the road, doing what he could, I suppose, getting to wherever he needed to go to. So I was waiting, at the lights. So I got through one set of lights. I did my right turn onto the road I wanted to be on. So I was then behind the tractor. As I explained that, I was at lights. Tractor went past the intersection. I then turned right, then onto the road, same road as the tractor. So I was behind it. Is that making sense? I hope so. Anyway, so I was driving along and I had to stop. Now, the lights went orange at the next intersection. So I stopped because I thought if I run it, I'm not going to get anywhere. I'm not going to gain anything out of this because there's that tractor up there which is going slower than me. I'm not going to get anything out of it, okay? Anyway, but there was this car beside me, some goon driving a clapped out, I don't know what it was. I'll say Nissan Pulsar, right? Anyway, so he went screaming through the lights and then, of course, had to slam his brakes on because the next set of lights, well, they were red. And also, he was then behind the tractor, which was taking up 2 lanes. So the old mate must have thought, oh, cool, I'm going to, sneak ahead. So he went across the lights and, he had to stop because, then the next set of lights were red. And there was a bloody tractor, this big tractor and plough, okay, it was a disc chain, there, and he got nowhere. And I was like, ha, sucked in, you idiot. So then the lights turned red, all the lights turned green. I then got over the bridge, the next intersection, and I was next to old mate who was, up the tractor. So, I made it to where this guy who ran the light was in 2 minutes, maybe less time, because he couldn't go past this tractor because it was taking up both lanes of traffic, and it's a hard line so you can't cross to pass. And then, so I was beside him, and we were driving 2 abreast behind this tractor. So it got him nowhere because I caught up to him in 2 minutes, maybe less time, maybe more time, I don't know. But yeah, so he ran the light, and then he had to stop, slam the brakes on the stop, and it was just, why? It got him nowhere. Completely pointless. What a goon. Seriously. God. Oof. You got a story about somebody running a light unnecessarily? I bet you do. Is it you? Do you run lights unnecessarily? Actually, I was with a friend once who ran a light and he got pulled over, and did he get fined? Or did he get a warning? Oh, I can't remember. But he got pulled up anyway by the gendarme. That was, what a time that was. So, I think I'm officially old. Yep, officially old. A couple of weeks ago, when was it, last weekend? Or one before? It wasn't last weekend. It was the one before. No, it was the one before. Anyway, whenever it was. Weekends ago. Sometime in between now. I don't know, anyway, whatever. I didn't talk about this before, have I? No, it's not on my matrix. Anyway, this is going nowhere. Yeah, so I'm old because I had a high school reunion a couple of weeks ago, and 10 years since I've left the high schools. And, it was, what was it like? Nobody had really changed. I'm going to make a hot take. Okay, I was talking to a friend about this the next day. I saw them at the reunion. Anyway, the next day we were talking on the interwebs, and I said, hot take, I reckon I've probably changed the most out of everybody who was there. That is a controversial opinion, simply because everybody looked the same, and I probably look different because I have a beard now. So there you go. And also, when I was in school, I used to have a bit of a bad back. But I have since had a bit of surgery on that to have that dealt with, so I don't have a bad back anymore. So I'd say that, I'm probably the only person who's changed, really. Somebody who I also went to primary school with, they were there, and they were, could I say, a loose cannon? They were a bit of a loose unit at school, but they've tightened up. I'd say they've tightened up dramatically, a lot more mellow now than what they used to be. So, they've changed a bit, but everybody else was sort of the same. Now, somebody there had boat shoes on, and I was amused by that, with no socks, right? It was raining this day. Anyway, they come dressed like rather summery. They had boat shoes on, no socks, and shorts, and like a short sleeve shirt. Like, okay, I guess. Oh yeah, that's this. Oh, but like when we were in school though, they were like one of those skater boys, and they had like the socks sort of halfway pulled up their calves, and like the shorts that are below the knee. They're like one of those not gangster rappers, but like one of those guys. And then they had boat shoes on with no socks. I thought I was amused. They just needed like a cardigan tied around their neck. Would have set them off. They would have just been like, yep, that's all they needed. A cardigan tied around their neck. And maybe like a white leather flat cap or something. That would have set them off, I reckon. But yeah, look, anyway, it was good to see people from high school. Quite a few for people from that I went to high school with, also went to primary school with as well. So it was good to see them, have a bit of a chat. What are you doing? Just about everybody I talked to knew what my job was, or what industry I work in. So it was interesting. But, people there, people had varied jobs as well. It was interesting. Somebody was like, or a few of the girls were receptionists. The guys, some of them were builders. I guess, are they typical, stereotypical jobs? That sounds a bit harsh, doesn't it, to say that? But anyway, look, it was good to go, have a bit of a chat, see people. At the start, it was feeling like it was going to be a bit of a fizzer because it started at like 7:30 or something, and there was not really many people there. And then they started filing in, which was good. So, look, it was good to go and see the folks from me school day Roonies and reminisce slightly. Now to the last story. This is just going to be a quick little story, I think. Anyway, I was listening to one of the various podcasts I listened to the other day, and the host on there, now in the, I can't remember what happened, I think in the episode of this particular podcast, it's like a story one, old-time radio stories they are. Anyway, so what happened in this particular show, somebody, I think, must have been out trying to hire a thug or hire a goon, right? I'm saying I think this is what happened. I was sort of half listening whilst doing other things. But so the show played, and then at the end, the host does a little bit of commentary, some comments about the particular episode we've just listened to. And something they said was, I've got it here in my notes, in quotation marks, I've never tried to hire a thug myself. Now, that got me thinking, where do you go if you want to hire a thug or hire a goon? Where do you go to do it? How do you make inquiries about hiring a thug or a goon? Like, do you just go to the dodgiest person you know and say, hey, Bandrew, I'm looking to hire a goon, okay? I need a hired thug because Cheryl's out of control. And they're like, well, what you do is you go to, see Dope, and he'll hook you up with a thug and or / goon for Cheryl. And you go, yep, right, cool. Also, if you're like, this is a side note, yet also slightly related, I guess. If you're like, let's say a hitman or a professional thug / goon, and you're doing your taxes and you have to put like occupation down, or even if you're doing a census and you put your occupation down, what do you write? Can you write hired thug? Oh, I suppose you could say that you're a security guard in that regard, I suppose. But if you're a hit person, what do you write? What do you write down? Your security, I guess, maybe. Yeah. But anyway, that comment, I've never tried to hire a thug myself, got me thinking as to, well, if you wanted to hire one, where do you go? How do you hire a goon? If you want a thug, where do you go to hire said thug / goon? So that was, that got me thinking. Do you know where to hire a thug? Have you ever had to hire a goon to do some goon work for you? I don't know, let me know. Facebook, Twitter, and or send me an email. Well, that is it for this episode of the podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, you can send me an email, Twitter, or the Facebooks, and you can give me a review on the interwebs if you so desire, because apparently it helps people find the podcast, because I only know that because that's what every other podcaster seems to say. Oh, it really helps find a podcast if you give us a rate, review, like, all that jazz. So if you want to, go for it. Share it with a friend and all that jazz. Now, here's a tease, possible tease for next episode. Something happened last week, and I was going to talk about it on this episode, but I decided not to because I've written to somebody about this particular thing that happened, and I wanted them to read it first before I broadcast it to the various people whom listen to this podcast. The person who I've written to being one of them, but I thought, I'm going to write to them. I'm going to write this story, and then I'll talk about it on the podcast. It is a doozy. I may have to get a guest on so we can talk about it together. Actually, I don't have a setup though for 2 mics. Anyway, I'll catch you next time.